shapes, for ships, ship shapes. I don't know. Hello, how's it going? I'm Andy, and welcome back. This is episode 6 of Scratch Build Basics, and I've had a few suggestions to build a ship, so I spent the night messing around, hooking through my bits box, and I come up with a few prototypes. Just give them a quick coat with cheap acrylic, just on a dry brush with some black, just to show off the detail. And yeah, that's what I came up with. So I thought since it was my first time, I'd start with a small one. And yeah, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so I'll just grab my ingredients here. I've got 3 lids and then 2 ping pong balls. I'm going to need to cut one of those in half. And then I've got some electrical wire, just ordinary electrical wire. And then this is an old Ethernet cable. It's got loads of wee wires in it, it's handy. And then this plastic bit off, I think it's off a soap dispenser pump. And that's about it for this wee ship. I just need to cut one of these balls in half. I could use a Dremel or a knife, but I'll just use some clever editing here. Now, before I start gluing anything, I'm going to give this all a good sand. I'll just use one of these foam sanding sponges. They're good for curved surfaces. And yep, I'll just give it all a good sand and give the glue good surface to stick to. So I'll get this first half glued on. I'll get plenty of glue around this inside edge, and then when I stick it on, I'll go back in with my glue along the join and just dab it on a nice thick glue line. And then that means when I go back in with my baking powder after, it'll leave a nice proud prominent weld line for detailing later on. Alrighty, now I'll get my second half glued on here. Just the same again, plenty of glue along the inside edge, and then go back along the join line with a glue just to get that thick weld line. And I'll just put them together here just so they're not touching. They're nearly touching but not quite, and that's the sort of shape just I'm going for, just to elongate that ball a wee bit. And just going back around the join here, plenty of baking powder. Although the baking powder is great for making nice strong joins with super glue, it is good if you've got a thick glue like a gel. It is good to use with baking powder for detailing too. You can use it in that way. Now that's my ship shape pretty much complete. I'll just get the center line down it here before I put any thrusters on. I just want to make sure I get those lined up properly and get my first lid sanded here. I'm fitting with these lids, one at the front and 2 at the back, and that'll be the thrusters for the ship. And just stick this first one on the front here. I'm not too concerned about weld lines on these ones. I think a nice clean join. I'll sprinkle some baking powder on here just to strengthen the join, but I'm not going to go back in. I'll just leave it a slightly cleaner join on these thrusters. That's the front one attached, and now just same again for the back two. I'll just give them a good sand, make sure they stick. This plastic, like I said, it's really not good for sticking, especially if it's shiny or waxy. So make sure you give it a good sand. Just using my center line there to help me line them up. Just between the center line and the edge of where the ping pong ball's cut, and that's helping me get them lined up properly. And that's it, thrusters on. Again, sprinkle a bit of baking powder just to strengthen up that joint. And there we go. Starting to look a wee bit like a ship now. Just give it a wee clean up here with my brush, keep things tidy. It can get a bit gritty when you're using the baking powder, it feels a bit gritty after a while. So thruster's a wee bit plain. So I've got some rubber grommets or rubber washers, and I think they'll make a good detail on these thrusters. Just jazz them up a wee bit. Just find the right size here. I had thought about coiling up some of the electrical wire just for a detail on these, but I have these rubber washers, so I might as well use them. This being rubber, I don't really know if it needs sanded, but I'm not taking any chances. I only want to have to glue it once. And same again with the lid tops, just give them another good sand. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually in the center add a bit of extra glue just to try and give it a wee bit of texture. I don't want that lid texture, I want it slightly rippled. So I'm hoping if I put in a wee bit of extra glue, that should give me a wee bit of different texture other than the lid. There we go, first one done. That's looking good. I'll just get the other two done and then can move on. I'll not bore you with any of the physics of how these thrusters work, but at the minute they look maybe a wee bit unstable, so I'll maybe add another one on top just to maybe stabilise it a wee bit. But for now, maybe work on the cockpit windscreen. I'll just divide it up in half here, just for a guide, and then just sketch on where I want the windscreen to go. And once that's looking about right, I'm gonna take some electrical wire and just roughly bend it into shape and then glue it into place. I'll just roughly trim it to size now because I know once it's stuck I can cut it down to size after. But yeah, I think that's roughly about right. I'll just get the glue on and get it stuck on here. And I'll just get this last wee piece stuck in here, and that's the cockpit window done. And just like everything else, I'll give this wire a good sand before I stuck it. Still a wee bit long there at the bottom, but I can snip those off. That's fine. That's looking good. Now, this plastic pump thingy is going to make a good rear facing thruster, but there's a couple of wee nubs on it here, so I just need to get those cut off first, and it should fit spot on. But it turns out it doesn't. There's a few wee gaps and stuff, it just doesn't fit quite right. The inside of it there is interfering. So I'll just use one of those rubber grommets, one of those rubber washers I had earlier, and that should fill the gap nicely and just make it fit a wee bit better. Yep, that rubber washer has filled the gap nicely. That's looking good, that's going to paint up nice. And now for a wee bit more detail on the front here, I'm going to take this cable tie. I'll just cut this wee square bit off it, and I'm just thinking this is where some wires are going to come out the front. And I can just go ahead and glue it here because I've already sanded it, trust me. I'll just give it a wee bit of seasoning here just to strengthen that joint up, and then I'm going to take some of my Ethernet cable. This is great stuff that you get from one length of cable. You get loads of smaller wires. It's great, and the idea is it's going to come out of there and around to each one of the thrusters. I've already got a couple of holes drilled here just for the wire to go into, and I'll just get the third one drilled. And this will just make it tidier. I could just cut the wire and stop it, and stick it wherever you want, but drilling the hole means it actually looks like it's going into something. Now this is going to be a bit fiddly, but I'll just take my time. I'm just trying to get the wire sort of roughly cut the length here, but yep, just take my time, work my way around, stick with it, and I'll get these stuck into place. That's my first two stuck in place. And then from a third one, I think there's not enough room to stick it in the front there, so I've drilled a wee hole in the side and it's going to poke out the side here. So I'll hit it with some glue, and then I'm going to cheat a wee bit and hit it with some spray activator, which is brilliant stuff, especially if you're sort of don't want to stop and you want to keep the pace. You know, you can hold something in place, hit it with some glue activator and bang. But the problem is the glue activator hangs around for a while, so if you're adding any glue around it after applying it, the glue goes off very, very quickly. So just be aware of that. Alrighty, now those are in place. I want to go back and just tidy them up a wee bit. I want the wires actually glued to the body of the ship. So I'll just take some glue and a lid here. I'm actually going to use this lid for the base. So just take a toothpick and just rub some of that glue in underneath the wire and yeah, stick it to the body. But again, this is where I ran into problems with this glue activator because the glue was going off straight away. So I just had to keep going back and reapplying it. Yeah, there's still a couple of places just not quite right, but I'll go back and get those glued on and it'll be spot on. And here I've just got a couple of lines marked out where I want some footholds, almost like a wee ladder, just going down the side. And I'm going to use some staples. They're the right size and they're already bent to shape, so they're going to work just perfect. I had previously poked the holes in the side of the ship already, but I lost that footage. But I can show you that later on. But for now, just get these staples in place, get a wee bit of glue. And at this point, it was still having problems with the glue activator. It was still setting off the glue, so I had to end up scraping it off and fiddling with it just for a wee while. But I got there in the end. And there we go, footholds done. I think they make a great wee detail. And now I'll just go and show you how I poke those holes. Basically just took a staple, straightened it out, and held it between my pointy nose pliers. And because the plastic's thin enough and the staple's sharp enough, you can just poke it straight through. So I'll just show you on this file here. Just simple as that. Instead of drilling it, you know, just a perfect wee hole. Then I just put a dab of glue in the hole when I was putting the staple in the side of the ship. And that's how I did that. And now just a few extra wee details, wee greeblies as we'll call them. And it's just a couple of poppers and a wee square of plastic I got off a hair curler. So I'll just get those stuck on a few boring places. And here's the hair curler just that I cut this wee square of plastic out of. They're handy wee things. Is another wee fiddly job, but get there in the end. There we go, that's looking a bit more interesting. Still a bit boring there on one side. So I've still got this bit of cable tie left over. So I snipped it up into just wee pieces and I'm going to stick it on the boring side of the ship here. There we go, details done. Just need to add a few rivets now and then some primer. So you could just leave it the way it is, it's just fine, but I'm going to display mine on a base or a stand. So I've got this lid off, I think it's off a fabric softener bottle. I've drilled a wee hole in the bottom of the ship here and just testing it on the base here, looks good. That's a base sorted. I'll get some rivets on now. I've got my nail art here. These are nail art gems, or they're gem art. They're sort of similar product, but yeah, I nicked them off the girlfriend. So take some glue and one of my leftover spoons. If you don't have these nail art gems, you can take a bead of glue on the end of a toothpick and just carefully dab it on wherever you want your rivet, and then sprinkle on some of the baking powder in the same way we do the weld lines. And this makes a good rivet. It's maybe not as prominent as sticking a rivet on, but it works. So you can see, as long as your glue is thick enough, you can get a good rivet with just glue and baking powder. That'll paint up lovely. And for the gems, pretty similar process. Just dab a wee bit of glue on, but a tiny amount of glue this time, and then pick it up with my wee gem picker upper and dab it on there. I actually dab the wee pen on my tongue first, just so the gem sticks. Looking good, but still need a few round the top here, so I'll maybe try some clever editing. So there we go, details done, rivets done, ready for a primer. And I'll not be painting it in this video, I'll keep it for the next video. So if you want to see that, just check out my next video in a few days. So there you have it, first ship done. He's a dinky wee thing, but I like him. I hope this was helpful, and if you want to see me painting him, I'll upload that in a few days. And if you have any suggestions of your own, feel free to give me a shout. Any questions or comments, you know where to go there, down below, work away. And as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!